Each week when Supernatural's done, make sure you know what went on. Listen to Heather and Eric, get the salt notes for sure.
All right, well, today we're doing the 15-minute version of this podcast. We got shit to do. We can't spend no 45 minutes talking today.
I feel like we probably will, though.
Well,
Once we start talking, we just keep going.
Yeah, well, I tend to ramble on a lot, but this is going to be the 15-minute version of Get the Salt podcast. I'm your co-host, Eric.
And I'm Heather.
And we are going to be talking about Season 1, Episode 6, Skin.
Yes, this episode originally aired on October 18th, 2005. It was written by John Svan. I don't know how to pronounce names. I apologize. But it was directed by Robert Duncan McNeil, who I was actually just having a conversation with one of my friends about yesterday because he's in town this weekend, and I wanted my friend to kidnap him for me.
Where do you hear that he's in town? Like Twitter? You follow him on Twitter? Is that what it is?
He is at a comic book convention.
Oh, okay.
He's at a convention in town this weekend.
Yeah, I thought you were maybe like we're stalking him a little bit and.
Oh, sure. I'll stalk him all the time.
I got his phone tapped at his house, and his wife was letting me know.
Yeah. Well, he directs like a crap load of stuff. He was an actor, but mostly known for Star Trek.
Mm-hmm.
He was on Star Trek Voyager. So and he shifted over to directing like many Star Trek people do, like Jonathan Frakes and him. So
yeah, they all kind of like. Not work on the same shows, but they kind of stick in the same genre. It's very rare you see someone start off on a supernatural show and kind of branch off to other things. I've noticed a lot of people, for example, what was the one that I saw? I can't remember the guy's name, but he was in multiple roles, but sticking into the sci-fi fantasy genre, and he got kind of maybe typecast. I guess maybe that happens to a lot of people.
That could happen to a lot of people.
Oh. Well, this episode is part of our Supernatural rewatch. If you're not joining us, please join us.
And also, spoiler alert, if you're watching Supernatural for the first time, this is a rewatch. We are watching it with having knowledge of everything up to the end of Season 11, and we'll probably let stuff slip that would spoil you if you're watching it for the first time. So be warned.
This episode's big bad is a shapeshifter.
Yeah.
A shapeshifter, which the skinwalker is different from a shapeshifter. I was confused at the beginning about what was the difference, and I remember that the shapeshifter has the ability to literally become you, like physically. It's not a mirage. It's not an illusion. He literally becomes you. Becomes
you completely, including your memories. Like downloads your memories and
has some sort of psychic connection.
And acts like you and picks up your mannerisms and is you.
Well, the first thing that got me with this episode was if a friend called you and said, "Hey, listen, my brother has just been accused of murder," would your first response be, "Hey, you know what? Let me go over there and find out what's going on"? Would you help your friend figure out?
If I investigated stuff, yeah.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Because
my friend now could call and tell me her brother killed somebody, and I'd be like, all right, well, what can I do? I would ask, what could I do?
Like, what could you do?
Well, that's the thing.
Make them
I
some
don't know,
shepherd's pie or something?
Like, I couldn't do anything.
Right.
But I'm not Sam and Dean. They have investigative tendencies.
What's weird about this is that at the beginning, it's not, you can't, I mean, I guess maybe Sam has an idea, but it's not a supernatural case. The guy's been accused of murder. He killed his girlfriend. Mm-hmm. But there's nothing supernatural about it. And he said the reason why he's going to go over there is because it's an old friend from college. If an old friend from college called me and said, "Hey,
well, keep in
come
mind,
investigate a murder for me," like
his old friend from college is from 6 months ago.
Well, it does seem from like watching this episode that it almost seems like this college has been a long time ago. You still keep in touch with all your old college buddies?
What's up with that? Like, Dean felt so controlling to me when he was like, "Well, you can't have anybody else. Like, that's just the way it is." I'm like, well, just because you didn't have anybody else and you're jealous of Sam for getting out, like, I think it would probably help their mental stability, which we've seen throughout the last 11 years. They could use a little bit more mental stability,
but I almost felt like
stop being so damn codependent. Maybe if you had a couple other friends.
Maybe.
guys.
Well,
Maybe.
in their line of work, you don't want friends or family because that just becomes a burden or a liability. It's a weakness.
a liability. But back here in season 1, where there are almost no demons running around. I mean, we just discovered that a demon was a real thing a couple episodes ago.
Mm-hmm.
Like, the stakes are not as high right now as they are in season 11 when you've got God and his sister fighting.
Yeah, I mean, I almost felt like Sam was just trying to gossip a little bit. Just go over there and like, hey, what's going on? But 400 miles back, it wasn't even like an easy trip. That was a tough trip.
400 miles is not that. Do you know how long that takes?
4 hours?
Yeah, like 4 or 5 hours. The way Dean drives, 3.5, 4 hours.
No, I think it's like more like 8. He coasts.
Yeah.
You think he hits pedal to the metal?
I think he's pedal to the metal.
No.
They go across country back and forth all the time, but I don't think that's very far. They didn't have another destination they were already going to, so why not?
Well, part of we always rewatch these things and we kind of see the things that kind of like make no sense to us.
Supernatural logic.
Yeah, the other one was where they got the lady let them into her brother's house to investigate, like to get a look at the crime scene where there's still blood splattered everywhere. I mean, this murder didn't happen like, just 5 minutes ago, and there's still blood everywhere. Like, that gets cleaned up.
That does, because after the police come in and they take note of everything, they take pictures of everything, and they collect samples of everything, the person who owns the property then has to call one of those cleanup services who specialize in forensic cleanups.
Yeah.
I don't know this because I've murdered anybody or anything like that. It's just, something I've seen around.
You haven't been planning the perfect murder?
No, what, huh? I don't know what you're talking about. There's no such thing as a perfect murder.
Well,
you would never know about it. You'll never hear about the perfect murder.
I've heard of the perfect murder weapon.
Icicle.
How did you know about that?
I'm fucking good, man.
Holy shit. That was some psychic stuff right there. We are linked. That's like the perfect murder. It melts away.
I just think about murder a lot.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Well, back in the day, I asked, I actually came from an old girlfriend. I said, what would be like the perfect murder weapon? And she said, because she was from up north, and she's like, those big giant icicles that you could just stab someone with like both hands. And then after you kill them, it just melts away. Murder weapon done.
There's an episode of Grey's Anatomy where there's ice. Like, it had been raining and cold and freezing, so there are icicles hanging off the hospital.
Right.
And a doctor walks in, and she slips on a patch of ice and kind of falls, and it shakes the ground. So an icicle falls down and impales her.
Mm-hmm.
And, it didn't hit anything. But like, that shows you could be stabbed with an icicle, and you could easily just pierce an organ and kill somebody with it.
Second question for you is...
Not that I think about killing people.
No. I mean, it's one of those topics you think about because I love watching murder. Not so much murder. I love watching like jail documentaries.
You're so
prison
weird.
document. I don't know why. I try to instill maybe the fear of prison, so I never want to go to prison or do anything bad.
I feel like I would do so well in prison.
I would do really bad, really bad. But what do you think about Sam's haircut in season 1? Is it bothering you? I feel like just saying getting like a scrunchie and just tying his hair back. It's so annoying.
They look awkward, like they haven't grown into themselves. He looks awkward, like he's still going through that awkward teenage phase.
Yeah,
well, that's what he looks like. But
well, one of the things is in this episode, the shapeshifter, it shifts into the person that's gonna impersonate or whatever, and then it ends up disappearing. And I mean, cops maybe are in the supernatural universe are not the smartest of people, or maybe they're not thinking the way they're thinking of these types of things, but they realize that the guy never comes out of the scene or wherever he goes to, wherever he's seen as the killer, and they figure out that, he goes into the sewers, and they follow them in. Well,
the reason that the cops weren't looking out back to see where the person left is because they thought they already caught the guy, because the real person, not the doppelganger or shapeshifter, was still in the house or wherever he was when he killed the victim. But my question is, the first murder for Sam's friend from college, he comes in, the shapeshifter comes in and kills his girlfriend while his sister says that he was with her. So he goes home and walks in and finds her dead.
Right.
They have video of him walking in, the shapeshifter walking in at 10:30. Do they not have security footage of the real him walking in at 11 without having ever walked out?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense.
That made no sense to me. If you have security footage, then you should see him be entering twice. You should see traffic cams that you can follow him back to his sister's house on if he was really there.
And is his sister's alibi not worth a damn either?
If you don't have any way to prove it, all you've got is your sister's word, and you would mostly assume that your sister would lie for you.
Well, in the sewers, so they walk in and they see, like, I guess the skin, like when the skinwalker sheds his fake.
I
like,
hate it when you shed.
As soon as I see that, I see that, I'm getting the fuck out of there. I'm like, he's down here. Let's get the fuck out of here.
Oh, hell no.
I come back with like a blowtorch or something, like.
Yeah. Oh, I'm getting like creepy crawlies on my back.
Well, I want to get into that now because since we're talking about shedding, one of the coolest transformation scenes I've ever seen was, and I as we're watching these episodes, you realize how good these episodes really are, and they stick with you.
Yeah.
That scene of him transforming and losing his teeth, ripping his ears off and chest. I mean, really well done.
I gotta say, the last few episodes, the water one, the Bloody Mary one, this one, are all episodes that I have remembered, easily remembered as something, even though I haven't watched it in, I want to say, 9 years or something like that. But these season 1 episodes are pretty stick with you.
These are the ones that hooked you and that got
this is what
that kept
got us
you
hooked.
watching it. I mean, and what I liked about it was urban myth type stuff that I was totally into at the time.
A lot of it, they talk about, is there any lore? Every culture has a shapeshifter lore. So these are stories that every culture has, things of Bloody Mary or vampires or ghosts and stuff like that. It's pretty cool. And I like the way it hooked us in.
But speaking of lore, that I didn't realize all the powers the shapeshifter had, because it felt like he was super strong. I wrote on here on my notes here that look up Skinwalker on the Supernatural Wiki, because I'm trying to find out exactly like what kind of powers they have, because he seemed to be super strong. I didn't know the process of how he was able to copy, because apparently he needed the person to be alive in order to look like them, so he didn't kill them right away. He held on to them to look like that person. And was there a time limit on the shedding? Because it didn't seem like it was it was something he did willingly, or it was like, I got he's almost like Cinderella at midnight.
Wow,
I gotta be home.
I'm on the Supernatural Wiki, and we're gonna have a lot of episodes with shapeshifters in them. I forgot how many.
Yeah,
there are a good 15 episodes.
Jesus.
Where shapeshifters are in. This is the first one.
And the fact that they could, take on all. I mean, that's a big superpower, because if you were trying, I would work for the government. You know how awesome that would be. I mean, you wouldn't have to hide if you had the ability to take on somebody's all their memories by shifting into them. That's a pretty badass weapon right there.
Yep. Okay, powers and abilities. Take on a living person's physical appearance and access the thoughts of the person they are mimicking. Take on a deceased or fictional person's physical appearances from pictures or from film.
So it doesn't have to even be alive.
Doesn't look like it.
Or maybe there's levels of
that's something that we'll see in one of the future episodes. Have children by impregnating human women.
Okay,
so those are their powers and abilities. Weaknesses.
That's not really a power. I could do that as well. Is that? I guess you could call it a power. I could reproduce.
I'm sorry, that's not that funny.
Focus.
Okay. Weaknesses. Maybe some of these apply to you. I don't know. Piercing the heart with silver.
That would kill me as well.
Iridium.
It sounds dangerous, so maybe.
Decapitation.
For sure.
Can be identified by
always when in doubt, chop the head off.
I'm gonna say decapitation does it.
Kills pretty much everything. Yeah.
Except for that one guy.
Yeah.
Can be identified by the retinal flares they give off on videos.
And in this episode, it showed the little flare. Yep.
And Vamptonite, according to Edgar, the Leviathan additive has been engineered to kill shifters.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well,
we'll get those in the future.
So nothing
seasons.
about super strength, right? Because he seemed to kick ass.
Maybe because Dean is strong?
Maybe.
If you're taking over somebody's complete appearance, aren't you then
muscle mass? Yeah, I guess
don't you just have whatever power they have?
So yeah, the skinwalker, or sorry, I keep on mixing up the shapeshifter and the skinwalkers, but shapeshifter then takes on the form of Dean.
Mm-hmm.
Ends up.
This is when Dean Winchester first gets accused of murder and shit.
Yep.
Like, I bet you this is when the London Men of Letters is first like, what the fuck's going on over there, buddy?
No, I think they still haven't caused enough damage to be on their
they're
anywhere near
they're
on their
years
list.
away from the bunker. So.
Yeah, a murder's like the
one murder, whatever.
The destruction of the entire universe maybe might set off some more alarms.
I like this. Back when the destruction was only like 1 or 2 people's lives getting ruined.
Yeah, that was nothing. That was nothing to be alarmed about. But it ends up taking Dean's form, and then I guess he was trying to pin a murder because he stayed around I think Sam and Dean called the police, and they caught him in the act of trying to kill, what's her name? Emily.
Yeah, the sister.
Yeah, so trying to kill her. So he got caught in the act. And, I mean, what kind of, when they broke into the house, the cops broke into the house, this fucking cop has like a fucking assault rifle and just like blasting away. I was like, whoa. He's like blasting off into a neighborhood.
Yeah, and where were they? Because they said it was 400 miles away. Where were?
Well, I think
what's her face?
I think they were still in the vicinity because they were still,
yeah, but what city is that the police are hanging out with assault rifles?
And also, don't you need like a warrant to break into?
St. Louis.
Oh, I thought you needed a warrant to break into somebody's house too. But oh well, fuck that shit. We'll talk about that later, right? So when Dean gets framed for murder, they put an actual
APB,
and then it had a drawing of him. Pretty fucking accurate, man.
I love that.
Yo, that guy, the sketch artist for the police, should get a raise because that shit was like on point.
Like so many, I know it always makes the news or the internet and becomes like viral when it's a really bad sketch.
Mm-hmm.
But those police artists, like, you work with people who do not know how to describe things, and you somehow get them to give you a picture that ends up looking even remotely close to what you're looking for. That's fucking talent.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm very impressed by sketch artists. I
mean, it's true because it's all from the script, and then
you drew a giraffe for me, and I was blown away.
Well, that giraffe was not that hard, but I still needed because it's hard to bring stuff up into scale.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I had you made me that little frame because it's hard. It's not easy.
Oh, I'm impressed because I can't do it at all.
Well, it's funny because here at work I also do chalkboard art, which was a new job, never something I was supposed to be doing. But I do one thing on a chalkboard one time for fun, and then now it's turned into part of my job.
Hey, Eric, we have this giant chalkboard. We need you to draw something on it. Hey, Eric, don't you think it would be cool if we redid the building and we just made this wall a chalkboard?
No, they'd probably make the entire outside of the building a chalkboard, and every time it fucking rained, well, Eric, you got to get back out there again and take care of this.
I love it that we actually have 2 walls in this building that are just chalkboard for you to draw on.
We're not talking about little fucking tiny chalkboards. We're talking
we're
20
talking you
by...
need a ladder to get to the top.
Like 20 by 10. Or probably more like 40 by 10.
Yeah, I was going to say, they're...
And it's ridiculous because and I do some stuff which...
it's twice the size
some
of
stuff
this room.
does turn out, it's huge. Some stuff does turn out well, but even the little things I do, people are so shocked and amazed. And sometimes I feel like, oh, you know what? I should just be a freaking artist. Just screw this all this computer stuff.
Yeah, I know, right?
Anyway, so... Yeah, we were amazed by the sketch artists, which we're just trying to keep it under 15-minute stuff is really hard.
I'm always amazed by talent because I have none.
Yeah. Well, they finally figure everything out. They are able to break in and catch the skinwalker in the act of almost choking Sam out. And I was wondering because I was expecting for that scene to be where the skinwalker was choking Sam and he just gets shot in the back type deal. Mm-hmm. But then Dean's like, "Hey," and he turns around and I think, oh, he was trying to shoot him in the heart.
Yeah.
But then now what happens is again stuff that you don't get to see is what happens to that skinwalker body. Do they bury it or burn it or because they can't just leave that thing laying around.
But they do. That's how you
get... but wait. So then does he stay in Dean's form and then almost okay, then Dean Winchester's dead?
Uh-huh.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, that's
he's a ghost
I believe
now.
That's going to be a plot point in a future episode.
Oh, so something where he gets oh, you're supposed to be dead type thing.
Where Dean was wanted for murder, but then I think he escaped and then, or whatever, they do a whole thing. There's a whole thing where he ends up being deceased.
Well, then they conveniently tie all the
Spoiler alert.
Yeah,
Sorry.
They conveniently tie all the murders and everything that's been going on with Dean. The brother gets off. I mean, I don't think things work that way, but yeah, let's say it does work that
I
way.
know. Well, supernatural logic.
Yeah, again, it's just kind of those things like it don't make sense, but it just kind of works, and it works out in everybody's favor. But they go off, and I mean, they're at this point still they have no idea where their dad's at. John's nowhere to be found.
Yeah, we barely even cared about him except for when shapeshifter Dean was getting all in touch with Dean's emotions, and you kind of like those were real emotions coming out of him. Like those were really Dean's thoughts and feelings when he was talking to Sam while he was tied up.
And I think it's not a lie. I think that's how he really feels.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's how, I mean, I would feel the same way. Why wouldn't you feel that way? You feel like, shit, why am I the only person stuck doing this?
Well, but then you've got Sam's like, you didn't have to stay. Like, me thinking of Sam, like, if Dean came to me with that shit, I'd be like, because you feel like shit about all this stuff, why do you have to make me feel like, misery loves company? Why do you have to bring me down with you? The way he's saying, why do you have friends from college? You can't have anybody. You can't have any ties. Well, like, because that's the way you are and you're miserable and jealous of me over it. Like, why do you need to make, why does Dean need to make Sam miserable too?
From watching my prison documentaries, typically lifers, guys who are never going to get out of jail, they mess with the guys who only have a couple months in or only have sentences of like less than a year and get them in trouble. So they end up staying longer because they're not going anywhere. So they typically just fuck around with those guys and make them spend more time in jail just for the hell of it, just to hate.
But yeah, I mean, I don't think Dean's doing that on purpose.
No. He really loves them.
But subconsciously,
for sure.
Misery loves company, and he's jealous that Sam got out, even if it was apparently only for 4 years. But yeah, I don't know.
I mean, overall, this episode was very well done just for a Monster of the Week. It wasn't, I mean, the monster wasn't over the top. I love the transformation scene. One of my favorite scenes I've ever seen, and just great gore makeup, great horror stuff. I
loved a lot of the emotional character development with Sam and Dean and the underlying emotions and the bitterness and jealousy between them. And I also liked this sets up, something shapeshifters and specifically, this shapeshifter being Dean and getting in trouble and getting killed and all that stuff ends up playing a part in lore seasons to come. So I enjoy that. See the start of something. Well,
next week we'll be talking about, are we doing 2 episodes next week or just 1?
I think next week we're just going to do 1.
All right, well, next Thursday, look out for season 1, episode 7. Hookman is the next one we're going to be rewatching. So please watch it with us and we could talk about it. No one actually ever gave me a story of the Ouija board.
Look, I sent you because I don't know how this happened. I think BuzzFeed is listening to our podcast because 2 days after our Ouija conversation, all of a sudden BuzzFeed has a list of the 17 scariest Ouija board stories out there. So I sent you that link.
How many days ago? What did you send to me?
I sent that to you sometime last week.
I still have it in my inbox. I've deleted, as emails have come in, I still have it in my inbox.
Yeah, you're weird.
It's the top thing.
My inbox has 3,640 emails. Yours has 2.
Yeah, because I'm still afraid to click on it because then I'll be thinking about it and it'll be in my brain. But I want to read it. I have it there still to read, but I haven't got into it yet.
I sent you plenty of Ouija board stories,
Actually,
buddy.
I clicked it on once and I seen the hand, like that little hand on it. I was like, oh my God, it's so scary. So yeah,
Ouija is copyright by Hasbro. Like honestly, the word Ouija is copyrighted by Hasbro. It's not scary. It's a game, dude.
All right. Well, if there's anybody listening out there, anybody listening, make sure you like us, subscribe to us, also
rate us on iTunes.
Yeah, check out our friends, the WinchesterFamilyBusiness.com. They got articles. They actually have an episode guide that's actually I think it should be out right now. That they're going to discuss articles, fans, videos, fan articles, etc., etc. And I guess we'll see you next week. Do we keep it under 15 minutes?
No.
Fuck.